what you have before you is our Master Emergency Services Agreement with the University of Idaho. We've provided emergency services both in the form of police services as well as fire services and ambulance services, dispatch services to the University of Idaho for many years, emergency medical services through our volunteer ambulance company. And that's taken place for many years under various agreements. I think I've been privy to about 6 of those agreements over the years that I've been here. They've been in varying lengths from 2 years to 5 years, dating back to the 60s, I believe. In 2010, the University of Idaho put out a request for qualifications and proposals for response to provide police services to the University of Idaho. With the council's authorization, we submitted a proposal because in order to provide those services, you had to have arrest authority. There were only 3 agencies that were able to provide those. That would be City of Moscow, Latah County, and the State Police. Latah County and the State Police did not respond to the RFP. We responded, negotiated an agreement, and entered into an agreement with the University of Idaho dated 2011. That agreement lasted for an initial term of 3 years, expiring in 2013. It was extended by its own terms for 1 additional year, expiring then October 1st of 2014. Since that time, because of a change of administration at the University of Idaho and in their financial and administration department, we were in the midst of consolidating not only police services but dispatch services and fire and emergency medical services into one agreement. I've been working on that for quite a few months. Recently, we came to an agreement that University Council could agree with as well. What you see before you is that agreement. You'll see that it has a base amount calculated for FY 2018, and then it escalates at 3% per year for the succeeding 2 years for an initial 3-year term, can then be renewed for 1 additional 3-year term, at which point the 2 parties would have to get together and negotiate or renew separately. You'll see from the agreement that it spells out specifically the police services that are to be provided. That would include services for commencement, services for football and basketball games, athletic events, VIP visits, so on and so forth, as well as additional records discussions and those sorts of things. You'll see a couple of acronyms in there. One of those is the Cleary Rule, or the Cleary Cleary Act, excuse me. So I've just pulled some information on that. The Cleary Act requires colleges and universities participating in federal student aid programs to disclose campus safety information and imposes certain basic requirements for handling incidents of sexual violence in emergency situations. So that regulates that information that would be available. Secondly, FERPA, which is a student records regulation, that if the student is under 18, parents have certain rights to student records. Once you reach the age of 18 or majority, then those records are subject to authorization for disclosure by the students. So those are 2 of the acts that our police and law enforcement need to be aware of, especially as acting in concert with the University of Idaho. So that's what that means. You also see fire services that are included in the agreement. We used to have in our budget police services, fire and EMS, and then for dispatch. So fire services are provided. We will provide standby, provide separately. You'll notice there are two services that are not included in the base rate that is in the agreement. One of those is for specialized services that the university requires or requests from the police for additional coverage. Secondly would be for services that they require from the fire department for standby or specialized services. Lastly, of course, you have dispatch services which are provided to the University of Idaho by the City of Moscow through our omnibus agreement with Whitcomb. We pay Whitcomb. We're in the midst of an agreement with Whitcomb to provide emergency dispatch services for the city of Moscow. University of Idaho is included in that. We have fairly modern or really modern 911 services through Whitcomb, and those would be provided as well through our agreement with Whitcomb to the University of Idaho. So with that, after all of this diatribe about the services to be provided, if this is approved by the City Council tonight, then it will then be presented by University Council to the University of Idaho Board of Regents at their next meeting. And then we would have an agreement for 3 years with that 1 3-year term of renewal.
And this was approved and recommended by the Administrative Committee on August 28th.
And Gary gave the same presentation, and we had we went into depth and understood, and I didn't see any issues. Walter, you had some questions tonight?
My questions have been addressed.
Okay.
Yes, and I appreciate that review of that. There were a couple of references to some different paragraphs in the document that weren't picked up by either the university or the city, so it was nice to get those clarified.
Okay. Gina?
Your Honor, I move that we approve the attached master services agreement with the University of Idaho.
Second. I'll give it to John that time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we got a move by Gina and a second by John to approve the attached master service agreement with the University of Idaho.
We'll start with you, Walter. Aye.
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 Thank you, Gary. We'll move forward with that. With that, that is the end of our meeting. So